Take a look at that. What's going on, guys? Been a little while. Thought I'd check in, give you a little bit of an update on my worm farming. It's only been about 2 months. As you can see, I got a little bucket. Got some castings. Don't have a whole lot. For 2 months, I didn't expect a whole lot. Just trying to help my garden out while I still can, or while it'll still do me some good. But I wanted to talk a little bit about starting up my worm farm, give you a little advice to anybody that might be starting one. The first thing I want to go over would be what kind of worms you get. You probably, if you saw my last video, you know that I went with red wigglers. I don't necessarily regret the decision. They're so far pretty easy to deal with, but after talking to a number of people, I ended up buying some night crawlers as well. No, I didn't put them in the same bin. I started a separate bin for them. But I mainly did that because there's a lot of lakes in my area, a lot of fishermen in my area, and I started looking around and I didn't see a whole lot of places where you could buy them. So I decided to give it a shot. Sorry, I know the wind's picking up. Hopefully everything's sounding okay. But anyway, might not be a bad idea to double check your area for what kind of worms you want to get. Either one are going to do the composting that I want, so if I can add selling night crawlers, why not? Or at least that's how I look at it. Another thing that you might want to check into is, I've noticed coconut coir is very popular. Everybody talks about it. When I first started, I ended up buying some. I will say that for about 2 bricks, 2 very small bricks of the coconut coir, you could buy a very large bag of peat moss. I can't sit here and tell you one's better than the other. I actually haven't used much of the peat moss yet, but I'm just bringing this up because it might be cheaper for you to just buy some peat moss at your local hardware store than it is to order coconut coir, probably online. Just pointing that out, save you a few bucks. If you saw my bin, it's nothing pretty. It's nothing more than a tub. No holes. I don't even use the lid. Yeah, I do see the appeal of these towers where the worms can go from layer to layer. I definitely see the appeal. I also see people making them out of 5-gallon buckets, drilling holes, making it so the worms will travel up, and then you can just get the castings out of the lower layer and then keep restacking it. It makes sense, but to me it's not that difficult. I didn't even add a drain in the bottom for the leachate, I think they call it. I didn't do that. I haven't really had any problems so far. In fact, I started off, I'd add a little bit of water here and there, but my basement's not, it's not really moist, but it's not really all that dry either. I do have a dehumidifier down there, but I haven't had to add a whole lot of water, nor would I want to. So I guess that's just something you need to check on and stir it up and pay attention to yourself. I know I brought up the eggshells deal in my last video, but those are easy to wash off after you crack an egg open. I set them aside until I have enough. I bake them. I think a couple of people said to bake them at like 250 degrees for a few minutes. Personally, all I've done so far is when I pull something out of the oven, I throw those in the oven while the oven's cooling down, and then I throw them into a blender, blend them up as fine as I can. Saves me the money. There's a lot of things. I will say this, If you want to know how much food you waste, start hanging on to it. I don't know why you would want to hang on to it if you don't have a worm farm, but now that I'm saving my scrap food, I didn't think I wasted that much food. And I'm not saying I do waste that much food, but you kind of notice that you waste more than you might have thought, especially when it comes to the vegetables and stuff like that. Let's face it, I have a dog. She's pretty good about taking care of my scraps as well, but she doesn't eat lettuce or certain other things. So just bringing that up because about anybody could feed some worms easy enough. How many? Well, that's up to you, but you always have neighbors. I do recommend doing this. So far it's been really easy. I go down there about between once a week and maybe every 10 days to feed them. And I just pretty much check on, of course, if I go a week and I feed them, when the next time I go in there, I check and see how much is still in there and plan my next feeding accordingly. So far, it's worked out to around a week to 10 days. I also want to point out lighting, or how you keep your worms inside of your bin. The red wigglers, I put a light bulb over them for about the first 2 days, and after that they stayed put. Then I got the night crawlers and I forgot to turn the light on for that first night. As a worm farmer, you don't feel like a farmer. I suppose you will after that first night of doing that, because yeah, I had to chase my herd down, so to speak. They were all over my basement floor the next morning. Luckily I got there in time that I saved most of them. I'm only pointing that out. It's pretty important to keep a light or something on that first night or two, kind of train them to stay in. Last night when I pulled these castings, that was the first time that my red wigglers really got rambunctious about trying to get out of the bin later. And I think that's just because, let's face it, I was in the bin. I basically tried to dry out the top layer and just slowly worked my way down. I didn't go through the whole bin because I didn't want to disturb where the food was and whatnot. But in short, it only being a 2-month-old bin, yeah, I probably should have waited a little longer. And I know a lot of people do the migration where you feed one side, that way all the worms go over there, that way you can pull the castings from the opposite side and just keep doing that. I do plan on doing exactly that myself. I knew I was getting an early start. I just wanted to be able to help out my garden by getting some castings, and it's the middle of July, so I guess the rest of them, who knows, I'll be in good shape for next year. And I'm just trying to build my farm up. I only bought 500 red wigglers and 1 pound, which I don't know, I'm gonna guess is maybe 175 to 200 night crawlers, and I'm completely guessing on that. So I have a lot of growing to do, but it's been interesting. I'm gonna be putting these castings in my garden here in the next couple hours, so I guess I'll let you know how they actually work in your garden, if it's all worth it, but I'm pretty sure it will be. This is considered black gold by a lot of people for a reason, so I do recommend you get into it. I'll give you another nice look at those castings. It's funny too, they're pretty soft. I think I got all the worms out of them. And by the way, yes, I did buy a couple of screens. I don't remember. I think I bought 3 screens. I think it's half, quarter, and 1/8 inch, and that's the result of the 1/8 inch once it was all done. So if that's something you're looking to do yourself, does take a few bucks to get everything you need, but it's not really that expensive, and once you get going, it's pretty much free between the paper, cardboard, and food scraps. So I do recommend getting into it. Feed your own garden.